Okay. So a very warm welcome and thank you for agreeing to this and coming on board. I am a member of Center for Social Research, and today we are going to talk about the Safer Internet Day, especially for students and teachers. So, the first question that I would like to ask you is that what are the online safety issues that you think students are facing, especially due to the COVID-19 pandemic when they are online?
The students as it is are digital natives, so it is, they know much more about safety features and how to circumvent safety features than we as, the adults are aware of. So I'm sure, other people you also speak to would share that when we first started using Zoom very widely for classes, uh, there was a lot of this Zoom bombing that was happening. And it was only after it happened, a couple of times that we realized the number of safety controls that we had to enable in Zoom so that we could ensure that this doesn't happen. So I would say maybe the first 15 days, was really an issue. But after that, it has, with all the safety controls in place, that has come down greatly. But we as adults must never let our guard down, because they will always look to see how they can try and fool the system.
Absolutely true. I think Zoom bombing was an issue that we also faced when
Yeah,
we were to give our digital safety training. So that's very
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Secondly, I would want to
One
know,
one thing that I
yeah,
just wanted to also add over here is, um, this is only for the, we're talking about safety issues during the class, but it's also very important for us as educational institutions to talk about digital safety, usage of responsible usage of, the digital media, because more than things going wrong in the class, it is, how um, our youth are using internet, which leads to social media, um, responsibly. The thing of, they think it's very funny if they morph their friends' pictures onto certain bodies, and then they put it on social media, and that kind of body shaming, and other things that they get up to in social media, which they do really because they think that it's funny. Those are the things that we are working very closely with our students to get them to understand that um, things that are put on the internet don't disappear. Even if you delete them, they will always be there, and they will come back to haunt you at some point.
that's
So that,
absolutely true.
yeah.
Yeah. One more thing that we would want to ask you is how to educate them, to the students, on tools and techniques of online safety.
You know, um, it's just constant talking and counseling them. This has to be done virtually on a daily basis for them to finally understand, and then also, share with them examples of how things have gone wrong for certain people. Um, and then, get them to understand how to you, because tools and techniques, we don't need to teach them. They know the tools and techniques, they can teach us. But why they need to use the tools and techniques that are there in place, and the benefits of it, and the disadvantage, or the how they can, get into trouble if they don't use it, that is, where we have to focus on.
Fairly so. So what do you think, in your opinion, is the future of technology with regards to education? So when we saw that there was a pandemic that hit and all the classrooms have shifted online. So what do you think the future of technology is when we talk about education?
I think technology has a great future in education. But um, I'll speak for my school, Pathways World School Aravali. One of my plans for this academic year was to drive more effective use of technology in the classroom, because up till the pandemic hit, while there were pockets of teachers using different types of technology in the classroom, it had sort of come down to teachers thinking that showing PowerPoint presentations, showing certain videos in class was the extent of their technology usage, and they thought they were doing a good job. Whereas now PowerPoint presentations are really the digital chalk and talk method. So I wanted to move out from there. So for me personally, I think that the pandemic also had this huge silver lining where um, to make the classes more interactive, more interesting for students, then teachers were pushed to find different apps to use during class time, how to make their presentations also more engaging. So we've done a lot of research, um, a lot of professional development for teachers on how to use different apps and tools that are available very effectively in class. And this, I think, is going to definitely have a long-term benefit, because when we've had bad pollution days, we've had in other parts of the country where it snows a lot, or there you always have certain conditions where we have to shut down school. So we can now shut down physical school, but we don't have to actually shut down the learning for children. So we can have more days of learning. We don't have to interrupt our learning because of certain days when we can't keep school open. So that is one advantage. Um, and as a group of schools, we are looking to see whether we can institute certain digital learning days. So while we know that if there's a bad pollution day and we want to shut school, we can just shut it physical school and continue with online classes. But we also want to institute certain days which will be used for online teaching, so that this learning that we have all had, teachers as well as students, does not go to waste.
I think that's a wonderful idea. It's the first time that we've heard that there are days that are fixed for online learning, and I think that's a good way to be. So, Ms. Mehta, since you're a head of a school, so how do you think that the current school system can change to support children with what you said in complement to the learning system days that you said that we're going to move online?
That is another initiative that we are going to use. My long-term goal for Pathways World School is that we become a tuition-free school. Now, we are also a day boarding school, so our day in any case gets over quite late. By the time children get back home, it's late. So children don't really want to stay back in school for extra academic support or for any extra classes. So we can now look at teachers and children going back home, and then later on in the evening having online academic support classes for our students. So it's the teachers are also at home. They can take a bit of a break and then start their classes. Children also are taking from the comfort of their home, so that will definitely help. And then we don't have to because we are also a partial residential school. So far, we have depended only on our on-campus teachers to give our boarders academic support. But now that's not a limitation anymore. teachers can go home and then they can call the students, whether they're day boarders or boarders, and hold academic support classes for our children. Because we're also an inclusive school, we have a number of children with different learning disabilities. So again, giving them additional support during the evening will become far easier for our children with additional learning needs. So, there are a lot of ways where we can leverage our learning from these last 10 months into school. Even, not only just complete online classes, now we are all going into a hybrid mode. And even this hybrid mode can be a learning, especially for our school where we have day scholars and boarders. If we have to shut down school, we don't always have to go into an online mode. We can have our boarders come into the classroom. The on-campus teachers can be there in the class, and we can address the needs online for the day scholars. So it's very important that we don't forget about all the learning that we've had in these 10 months.
Yeah, thank you so much. So here's Jyoti. She's a colleague,
Hi,
and
Jyoti.
Hi,
yeah,
ma'am.
you would want to say something?
Yeah, thank you so much for talking to us. And I have a very small question. Are you aware of any online safety trainings or specific programs either run by the government or privately or by the development sector for training kids on issues of online safety and mechanisms, communications? Any such programs if you're aware of?
We have been in touch with a gentleman called Rakshit Tandon, who had before the just a little before the pandemic had hit, he had come to school to do online safety awareness for our students as well as for our parents. So I know of Mr. Tandon, who does a lot for online safety. But apart from that, I'm sorry, I don't.
All right.
But
All right.
we are
Thank
always,
you.
we are always looking for different programs and opportunities. So if you, since you all are also doing a lot
Yes.
in
Yeah,
this,
that's
thing, if you
what
all
I was.
have,
Yeah.
if you all have any programs that we can look at for our teachers as well as for our students, it's very important.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was going to come at now. So we've been doing this for almost 10 years now as an organization, and we started with university. We were targeting university students earlier, and we were holding physical in-person workshops with great success. As physical workshops go, we have trained more than 100,000 students across India, and like fun workshops where we talk about responsible communication, safety tools, mechanisms, engage the kids, and as we know, the pandemic hit. We brought our module online. So what happened was we could increase our outreach like 10 times. So in the past 4 months, we were able to reach more than 100,000 students just in a few months. So yeah, ours is a very successful, good program. And I honestly, personally believe in it as a mother as well. We interact with kids and we talk to them about features, and we introduce them to online safety toolkits. I'm sure as a principal you're aware of all of these blue whale challenges and the recent boys locker room incidents, and so which also just we've been trying to make headway with schools, but somehow safety trainings have always have taken a backseat with academics. But after these problems actually took life and they became more mainstream in the media, is when people started noticing. So yeah, that's me talking about what we do.
No, I think it's very important because we have wanted to, do regular programs for children, because, in my mind, by the time children get to college and university, they are pretty mature. But it's the early adolescent age where, children are experiencing a lot of things going on in their own body biologically. That is the time when peer pressure becomes very important. And, so these are all things that lead to irresponsible behaviors. And we have, this is one, the age group of, say from 12 to 16, where if we really focus a lot on responsible usage of the internet, doing anything online, I think we will we will reap the benefits when they grow older.
Definitely. Yeah.
Just this
In our
weekend,
yeah.
just
In
this
our
weekend in your school,
Sorry.
we had organized a conference which we had a lot of children from other schools also participating, talking about digital literacy, responsible use of digital media. And we had a lot of external speakers coming to speak to the children, a lot of keynote addresses. So, we have to just keep on working on this. Even when we get back to physical school, the internet is 85% of this young generation's life. Sorry, you was trying to say something?
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we noticed in our experiences, that we had to lower the ages of our audience, because I'm sure even if it's not like fairly legal for kids, 10, 11-year-old kids to be online on social media, they all are. The reality on the ground is they're all doing what even parents know that they're doing. Parents are also encouraging them. So yeah, the age group that we ended up, and we got requests from schools for the same, that not just, don't just train our 11th and 12th standard students. Why don't you start with 5th, 6th? We had students from class 4 also, because teachers were aware that they are using the internet, especially when we are telling them to come online for classes, they're using it for other things as well. They're stuck at home. So yeah, that was quite a big plus. This was a jolt to reality for everyone. And so it would be nice if we can get in touch with you, and maybe we can talk
Please
out
do.
a program for your students also. Apart from that, when you talk about, like you, ma'am, you mentioned this is a time when they are exploring their sexuality, they're exploring what is happening around with them, their feelings and their bodies. Our organization is mainly about gender, issues. For the past 40 years, we've been doing gender trainings for institutes, for police trainings, for students, for educational institutes. So we are that's what our foundation is. We train students, and we train people on gender issues, sensitization trainings. So that's one part. That's something completely different. But yeah, that is also something that we
It's very
really believe in.
important.
Yeah,
It's very important to do that, especially at the um, again adolescent age. For example, something like boys' locker room would never have happened had this been taken up by different schools. And I'm not saying that we have not had issues in school as well. We have had issues, which we then as soon as it comes to our notice, we address. But I would prefer to be just to sort of take a more proactive approach rather than a reactive approach.
that is so, this is so heartening to hear this from you. I wish more people believed in this as much as you do. So yeah, these are two things that we wanted to bring to your notice. One is our gender trainings, and the other is our digital safety training.